Are you feeling a little stuck about what your goals are, your resolutions for the new year? Well, I have a ton of ideas for you today. So you are in the right place, my friend. We are going to just toss out a lot of really helpful, practical ideas for how you can kick off the new year in a way that is intentional for your family to strengthen those relationships. That is the whole goal of this podcast, the Love Your People Well podcast, to help you enjoy family life by building happy, healthy, and holy family relationships. But I know that that is ultimately the desire of your heart. You might have some goals around losing weight or reading more books or all sorts of things. But maybe you haven't really clarified it yet, but you definitely have goals for your family relationships. You want them to grow deeper. You want to enjoy them. And so I'm just going to toss out some ideas today of things that either I have as goals or have used in the past as goals, or things I have helped so many different women in the counseling room work on that I know they are good and healthy and realistic goals. So I'm going to toss out ideas for all of the categories that we focus on this podcast. So as we jump in, I will remind you that you're listening to the Love Your People Well podcast. This is episode 165, and I'm your host, Jess Hayes. I am a marriage and family therapist, a Christian, a wife, a mom, and I am passionate about helping moms really enjoy family life, even when it's crazy, even when it's stressful, and maybe most especially when your kids are young. Those precious years that everyone looks back on and you smile and say, oh my gosh, it was so hard and it was so wonderful. I want you to know the wonder of it today while it's happening, right in the middle of it. So, I will point you to plenty of resources over at loveyourpeoplewell.com. And I will start us off. I'm going to have, let me look at my list. I have 3 ideas for you for goals in each of the areas we focus on this podcast. So that would be deepening your faith, that foundation of faith, your marriage, your parenting, your overall home and family life, and then in kind of the nuances of those areas, some goal ideas around emotions and communication. So if you're new to the podcast, those are all the areas that we talk through kind of week by week. A lot of times they lump together into, the same conversation is going to hit on a lot of those, but we're here to focus on our marriage, our parenting, and our family life with Jesus at the center and dealing with the most common struggles that get in the way of enjoying all of that, which in my experience is often our emotions and our communication. So we're going to have goals in each of those areas. Before we dive into that list, I want to invite you to join us in the new year in the Faith Fiver Club. This is our private Patreon community, only $5 a month to join us there. And we have a private podcast. And we are also kicking off in 2024 monthly challenges. Each month we will focus in on a key area of Christian family life. And we'll go deep. There will be a workbook. We'll have additional private podcast episodes and journaling prompts and prayer prompts and Bible studies and a lot of both encouragement and practical resources to help you be intentional with your family in the new year. And so it is a wonderful opportunity to get some of those extra perks for yourself, to go deep and to do that with community around you. So that is the Faith Fiver Club, and you are invited. The link is in the description there. It's our Patreon community for Love Your People Well. In January, we are kicking it off with a focus on spiritual disciplines. And I'll probably have a little bonus episode soon to give kind of a sneak peek of what that looks like. But we have 7 key spiritual disciplines that we're going to just practice all month long, week after week, getting comfortable with them, building confidence in them, and growing closer to the Lord. So I am really excited about it, and I would love for you to join us. So whatever goal, or maybe goals plural, you are working on this year, I know that will be a huge blessing and asset for you. So if you're feeling a little stuck, though, on what those goals are for you and your family, hopefully some of these ideas today will help. So let's start by thinking about our faith. We want to have a fruitful faith. We want spiritual growth. So here's a few ideas. You might consider a goal around reading, like something with reading the Bible. Read the Bible every day, or read through the whole Bible in a year. Doesn't have to take all year. You can do a 90-day program or something like that. But getting in the Word. Some sort of goal around that is going to be such a blessing for your faith. You might have a goal around memorizing scripture. That is a really helpful area. Maybe that's just quantity, like I want to memorize, one scripture a week, one scripture a month, or maybe there are specific scriptures that you want to memorize. And a third idea there, which maybe I'm thinking about it because it is one of the spiritual disciplines we will focus on in the Faith Fiver Club throughout January, but maybe a goal around practicing Sabbath every week, intentionally setting aside time to rest and trust the Lord. Trust that He is working when you sit and you rest and you just let Him do what only He can do. So those are a few ideas for your faith. Now, what about your marriage? I know you want a happy marriage. Of course you do. Of course you want a happy marriage. And if you've been married longer than 5 minutes, you've probably figured out that sometimes, maybe not always, but sometimes that happy marriage takes a little more work than you might prefer because life is real and people are messy and relationships can be hard. So a few ideas to boost your marriage in the new year. You might have a goal around compliments. Compliment your husband every day, or keep a gratitude list specifically about things your husband does or who he is. What are you thankful for about your husband? You might want to have a goal around intimacy, trying some new creative things. Every week we'll try something new, or every month, or, we're going to go back and, try some things we did on our honeymoon that we haven't thought about since, or we're going to read this book or try something together. If you're looking, I will say, for a resource there around boosting your physical intimacy with your husband, I am a huge fan of Sheila Ray Gregoire, and she has some online courses that are very reasonable, very Christ-centered, very practical, and so I always recommend those. I'll put a link in the description for today as well, or you can find it. There's a whole page of resources on the website for each of these areas. So loveyourpeoplewell.com/marriage has links there as well. But a goal around your intimacy, trying something new, or just focusing in there to strengthen that part of your marriage. Or maybe a third idea here around intimacy, but also scheduling, like real life, planning a date night every week or every month, getting a little time away from the kids. And maybe that's not a date night like we go out, but hey, we want to be more intentional with what we do after the kids are in bed. Are we just zoned out on social media? Or do we watch a show? Do we read books? Do we have a conversation? Do we play games? Do we invite friends over? What do we do with that time to connect and not just zone out? So a few ideas there for your marriage. Now, what about parenting? Joyful parenting. One idea might be zooming in on your individual relationships with each child, like a one-on-one conversation every day with each kid, or, a monthly one-on-one kind of date activity with each kid. Another idea might be prayer, praying for your children every day. Keep a list of what they're struggling with and pray over that every day. And a third idea here in your parenting might be connecting or just raising that awareness of technology and maybe having some goals around putting down your phone and being present when your kids are in the room, or changing up maybe how you share on social media about your kids, but considering technology and how that's impacting your parenting. All right, let's take a look at another section of life, which would be home life, family life, some goals you might want to consider there. It might be worth focusing on your schedule in the new year. Eliminate some things so that everyone is less busy, aka less stressed, more quality time. That might be a goal. You might have a goal around family discipleship and starting to read the Bible together regularly. Or maybe a goal around, thinking back again, some date night type of activities, but a fun family activity every month. Put it on the calendar. It is in gold. It is staying. It will not be interrupted. Prioritizing that family time. And then let's think through a few ideas. So those are the relationships, right? Your relationship with the Lord, with your husband, with your kids, with your family as a whole. What about the things that might just be getting in the way of enjoying those relationships? You might want to think about some goals for managing your emotions. So one idea would be to pick a book of the Bible. The book of James is really great for this, or Proverbs, and read through that book and pull out specific scripture verses to pray for yourself or for your family. Another idea might be to really make it a year where you want to practice coping skills. What do you do when you're angry? And having a list of ideas, practicing those, getting confident in those, using those in the heat of the moment, and really zooming in on coping skills. And a final idea here, so that maybe speaks a little more to anger issues, but what about anxiety or depression? That's a huge emotional hurdle for so many Christian moms. Well, maybe you want to work on reducing your anxiety by trying, maybe again, different coping skills that might help there, or spiritual practices and disciplines that help there. Keeping a daily gratitude list, or writing down your worries and specifically praying over them every day. Managing your emotions is a very worthwhile goal that will benefit and bless your family. And then the final area I would highlight here is communication. You want to communicate well. So you might want to consider a goal around what communication looks like with your husband about not really, not maybe the intimacy or the relationship, but just life. Maybe you want to schedule a monthly time to sit down and talk about all the boring junk that you just avoid. How's the budget? How are the finances? Are we happy with our chores? Like what, all the things that you don't want to talk about, but you should. Schedule that every month. Maybe that's a goal. You might want to have a goal around communication as far as understanding other people, understanding your husband or your kids, maybe by asking more questions. Before I share my opinion, I'm going to really work on always asking to seek to understand their opinion first, which could go a long way in improving the relationships and the communication. And maybe a final idea here would be having some sort of goal around honesty in your home. Now, maybe that's simply being more honest. Maybe that's being more vulnerable, like with your husband, or with your kids, or maybe it's just how you speak. How do I speak honestly with love, and practicing different ways to do that. But zoom in on this is a weak spot in our communication, and set a goal that would move toward changing that. And our recent episodes, 164, we just focused on how do I take a goal and turn it into an action plan. Listen back through the recent episodes. You're going to find some really helpful tips and tricks and information there. And like I said, join us in the Faith Fiber Club to go deep into different focus areas for your family over the course of the year, month by month, diving into new challenges and new encouragements and new goals, if you want to think about it that way. And the last piece I'll highlight here is if one of these areas that I mentioned hits home for you, like, wow, communication really is a struggle right now, or intimacy really is a struggle right now. If something is hitting home, definitely check out loveyourpeoplewell.com and the different resources pages that we have there. I have a devotional for each of these categories, as well as plenty of previous blog posts and podcast episodes and recommendations for, online courses by Sheila for boosting intimacy, planners that are helpful, books that are helpful. There's a lot of helpful stuff over at loveyourpeoplewell.com. So I would really encourage you to hop over there, maybe grab a devotional that speaks to the area that you're struggling with and that you want to focus on in the new year. I would love to hear from you. I'll just put that out there. If you're on the email list, you've already gotten this question, but I would love to know if you have particular goals for your family in the new year, so that I can be praying over them. I love to pray for this ministry and this community. And if there are specific things for your family, I would love to be praying for those. So definitely let me know. Let's stay connected. If you join us in the Faith Fiver Club, there is a lot of opportunity for that type of connection there. But that obviously is not a requirement for me to be praying for you, because I am so glad you're here. And it is such a blessing and an honor for me to know that you're taking time to listen to this podcast, to invest your heart and your energy into loving your people, your husband, your kids, loving them well. And I pray that that is present in this new year, that this is a year filled with happiness in your marriage and your parenting, and filled with good communication and healthy emotions and all of the things that make up happy, healthy, and holy family relationships. I pray that regularly for you, my friend, and I pray it as we go into this new year. May the Lord be present with you and blessing you, and I pray that you will feel that blessing, that you will feel His presence in your home and with your family. So happiest of New Year's to you. Join us in the Faith Fiver Club or grab a resource that's helpful for you. And we will be back in the new year for plenty of more helpful, practical, biblical conversations around loving our people well. So until then, my friends, hugs and blessings to you. I'll talk to you soon.